Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous, hosted by Bruce Hutchin. I'm so happy you've joined us today, and you're going to find out a lot about whitetail hunting on the show. This is Whitetail Rendezvous, episode number 370. Hey, folks, we got a new sponsor. It's called Buckwild Coffee. What's so special about Buckwild Coffee? Well, a gazillion people go to Starbucks every day and drink coffee. Well, why shouldn't Buckwild Coffee offer you light, medium, or dark roast with free shipping? All you have to do is go to whitetailrendezvous.com, go to shop, and order your coffee, and I'll ship it out for free. Hey, thanks so much for visiting Buckwild Coffee. The best brew in the West, the best brew around the campfire, the best brew in the hunting shack, the best brew anywhere. Buckwild Coffee. Get yours today. Welcome, Joe Pacconi, to Whitetail Rendezvous. Joe runs Pacconi's Trophy Whitetails of Southern Ohio. What does that mean? Well, one, it means he's got good bucks. Two, he's got some really good land. And three, everybody that goes to his camp has a great time, whether or not they shoot the buck of their dreams or not. What does it all come down to? Joe understands what it takes to hold big bucks on his land. He's going to tell us about that. Also, how to be a good neighbor. Know who's around you and what type of quality deer management they are or are not doing. And the third thing is that when Joe puts you on the stand, you have a chance to get a shooter. It could be a Pope and Young upwards to a Boone and Crockett. It's never too early to think about food plots. Whitetail Rendezvous has an ebook for you. Just simply text 33444 food plot to get your copy. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your host, and we're heading to Ohio, actually Athens County, Ohio, and we're going to meet up with Joe Pacconi of Pacconi's Trophy Whitetails of Southern Ohio. Joe, welcome to the show.
Hi, Bruce. How are you today?
Well, I'm doing good. Thanks for letting me bend your ear in the warm up, and it's been quite a journey here at Whitetail Rendezvous. And in a couple of days, like tomorrow, we're going to be celebrating our second anniversary. So thanks for being on the anniversary show.
Sure, no problem. It's my pleasure, buddy. Thank you for having me.
You know, Joe, I'm thinking about the people who come to your camp and your land to hunt and down in Ohio, and I'm thinking about the people that really haven't done that a lot. Maybe this is the first guided hunt, so to speak. You know, what do you share with the people so they immediately get comfortable with your tips, techniques, stand sits, and the whole ball of wax? Let's just unpack that. And I'm a brand new hunter, so what are you going to do with me as soon as I hit camp?
Oh, well, on an inexperienced hunter, I try to inform them everything that we try to do to kill a trophy whitetail as opposed to just killing a whitetail. As far as how we check the wind and our stand locations, making sure they can put the hours in is one of the biggest keys to killing one of these big deer, because obviously if you're not in a stand for a lot of hours or in the blind, then your chances obviously are way less than if you can put the time in. And what they can do to prepare themselves to put that time in. I think it's the most important thing is for them to be able to put the time in the stand or blind that we recommend them to sit in, and just teach them the little things, you know, like I said, the wind and having the proper equipment to hunt these big deer. Obviously, we want them to have, you know, the proper bow or firearm to be able to put a big animal like we're hunting on the ground, and just making sure that they're filled in on everything about hunting trophy whitetails.
How do you get them to view and to estimate what a trophy whitetail is? Because a lot of these guys, they might have been shooting spikes or fork horns or 1.5-year-old branch or 2.5-year-old looking pretty good 8 or 10 pointer, or even a 3.5-year that's getting up near 120, 125, and that's a great deer. But maybe we want him to be in the gene pools, so we're going to pass on them. Do you have any, set things that you talk it out with people or show them, okay, this is the type of buck you're looking for?
Sure. Everyone knows I'm pretty much a trail cam fanatic, with all my website pictures and Facebook pictures. I show them trail cam pictures, what we're looking for, what a mature deer's body actually looks like, with the belly sagging a little bit and the full chest and, just a heavy muscular deer as opposed to a 2.5-year-old buck, what their bodies look like. And then, obviously the rack size, we show them pictures of what a 125-inch deer to 150-inch deer looks like, so that when they're in the stand and the opportunity presents itself to them, that they can make the proper decision and harvest the right type of buck that they came to Ohio for.
If a person's never seen a 125 Pope and Young buck, it's got to get exciting for them, I would think, if they're sitting in the stand, all of a sudden here comes a 10-pointer and they're going, oh my goodness. And maybe it's, only a 2.5-year-old deer. It's not quite 125 Pope and Young quality.
Well, that's where the pictures come into play, Bruce. We've shown the pictures and the body sizes, what they look like on the hoof, live from a trail cam. And we just hope when that moment comes that they go back in their mind and remember the stuff that we told them and the pictures we showed them. And we hope that they make the right decision when the moment of truth comes in front of them.
Now, when new people come into the camp that haven't been there before, do you set them up on a range and determine their max shooting distance?
Yeah, usually we'll have a target set up and guys will come out and shoot. But usually people are prepared when they come on a hunt like that. They're usually shooting at home and stuff. So that never really comes into play as any type of problem for us usually. Usually everybody that comes to my place, they can shoot a quarter, at 40 yards, or a pie pan at 50, keep it in the nice group. But usually guys are, shooting at home. If they're coming on a paid hunt, they're usually prepared and ready to go.
When you think about preparation, what's your advice to somebody never been to your camp or never been to anybody's camp as far as getting geared up?
Well, I usually tell them to try to get, a quality bow or crossbow or firearm, number one. And then to practice with it, 5-6 months before you come to my place. Have your weapon and be practicing with it 2-3 days a week. And, as the 5 or 6 months go by, they'll be ready to go whenever they step into the woods with that weapon.
Now, do you have archery, muzzleloader, and either shotgun or rifle hunt?
Right. We do the whole season, whatever the hunters prefer to use. We have archery, crossbows legal in Ohio. Late muzzleloader season, a very popular season. Everybody likes to come for that in January. And we have a regular firearms where you can use your muzzleloader or any no neck cartridge. And that's always the Monday following Thanksgiving for 7 days. And the bow season is nice and long. It usually runs till February, from September 23rd, 24th-ish till first week of February. So it gives people a lot of time and a lot of open opportunity on dates to fit a hunt in Ohio.
You mentioned open neck or no neck. What does that reference to?
No neck brass cartridges like 357, 41 Magnums, guns like that without a neck on the cartridge.
Okay, so my 30-06 wouldn't be legal in Ohio, is that correct?
Right, exactly. Yes, yep, that's right, Bruce.
All right, and great. Let's talk about when you look at your land in the springtime and say, I'm going to have some food plots here. I'm going to feed here, and I'm going to move some stands. What determines those decisions?
We look at the trails, where the trails are heavy. If it's a property that we hunted before, we go a lot on past experience where the hunters seen the deer while they were hunting in the stand or blind where they saw movement. We may need to move a blind or stand 50, 60 yards in either direction, or hunters might tell me that they were winded in a certain area quite often. So we figure out how to change something to put the wind in our favor. Wind always plays a big factor when you're hunting these deer over 3 years old. Their nose is the key weapon for sure. And topographical maps, we try to see where, you have draws and ravines and flats, because where we hunt's a lot of steep wooded area, and the deer usually like to get on top. So we try to find, flats and tops where we can get the hunters set up in blinds or stands, and where they got some acorns, that plays another big factor. White oaks, water, wherever there's a creek, got to have water too. So just multiple things that we look at and determine where we're going to set up our blinds and stands for our hunters.
Now, you told me, excuse me, you told me before that you bait. So baiting is legal in Ohio during the whole hunting season?
Absolutely, and it's only legal on private land, Bruce. It's not legal on the public properties.
So that kind of keeps some bucks on your land, especially depending on who your neighbor is. Is that correct?
Sure, it really helps us keep the deer on our properties. And when we pick out a property that we're going to hunt, we try to look at topographical maps and pick an area that's against a lot of acreage, a lot of big timber, where we can draw the deer out of the timber. Even if we only have a 30-acre piece, we can still, as long as it's against 1,000 acres of big woods, we can bring the deer onto the ground that we're hunting.
Now, will they go back to, let's just say it's either Forest Service or, state forest, will they go back to bed, or can you just hold them, within a quarter mile of your food source?
Usually the whitetails will hang close to the food, Bruce. I would say most deer bed within 1,000 yards of the food. So as long as we start feeding, the key is I start feeding in July. So by the time October rolls around, the deer pretty much are locked into where I'm feeding them. They're staying right in that area. And that's a big key, is starting to feed early like that, as opposed to throwing some corn out a week before the season starts and thinking you're going to hold the deer in your property. It's not going to happen. 5, 6 months ahead of time, the deer get in a routine. They're comfortable. They're not being hunted. They'll stay in that area. They'll stay within 1,000 yards of the corn pile or food plot, whichever one you have there, or both. And it'll hold them. They'll stay right there. But the key is starting to feed early.
Now, you just mentioned food plots. So you have food plots as well as bait piles on your land?
Yeah, it just depends on which property it is. Obviously, whatever the terrain is determines whether you can put a food plot in. We do hunt a lot of big hardwood where we're at there in southern Ohio. It's not a lot of open land. It's a lot of big hardwood, and baiting works really well there because we don't have competition with 300-acre cornfield like western Ohio or a lot of states out west where they have a lot of agriculture. So it really plays into our hand that we don't have a lot of agriculture and open land, and it's mostly hardwoods that we hunt.
Now, I'm used to hunting up in Wisconsin, Iowa, out in Kansas, and so it's completely different than big timber. Yes, in northern Wisconsin, we have some big timber. I've only hunted up there a couple of times. Usually I'm hunting agricultural ground. So what's the difference between, the lush alfalfa field or cornfield or bean field as opposed to big timber bucks?
Well, once again, the big timber, the biggest key is it's going to give your deer the age. We already have the genetics in southern Ohio for these big deer, so we need to get the age, and then we're going to provide the feed to them. So there's the 3 ingredients we need to harvest these trophy whitetails. the hardwoods really plays in our favor. Again, like I said, the deer, he can live 5, 6, 7 years, much harder to corner, to harvest than as opposed to, well, we're hunting this alfalfa field and he's going to come out in the corner over here 3 out of 5 nights. The deer less patternable, but we can get them coming into the corn piles pretty good because we start feeding 6, 7 months ahead of time. And the corn pile works just as good as any alfalfa field. And I would say even better, because where else is the buck going to go? If I have 300 pound of corn down there every week in a pile and there's nothing within 2 miles, no alfalfa fields, no corn fields, obviously he's going to come to my pile, so it works pretty good for us. We're having a lot of success with it.
Thanks for sharing that. And what about your neighbors? Is it all state land surrounding your leases, or do you have some neighbors that also hunt?
No, pretty much my property's all against other private property, and it works really well, Bruce, because my neighbors are looking for the deer that are between 125 and 200 inches. So they're letting your 115, 2.5-year-old 8-point go, and we're letting them bucks go. So it's all working out well, quality deer management by your neighbors and yourself really produces these big deer. And they're feeding them too. They're giving them the minerals in the spring, and they're putting corn out too. So the deer are good and healthy, and everybody's waiting for a quality buck. And that's getting a lot of bucks over 3 years old in the area. And everybody, neighbors and all of us are getting nice bucks, and everybody's happy because we're all doing the same thing. We're letting the young bucks go, and we're killing mature whitetails.
That's got to be rewarding for you to, let them go and let them grow, and have your clients do that. I've been in some places, and, I took a really nice 135, and everybody else was shooting over 150s. I took the deer with a muzzleloader because it was my first muzzleloader, and his brow tines were like 8 inches. They were as long as his G2s and G3s.
Oh my! Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, and I couldn't let him walk. He was such pretty. I put him on my wall. He's not the biggest buck I ever shot, but he was darn sure the prettiest one. And it's the memories, that I carry back from the hunt. Yeah, I'd love to put a big buck on the ground. Don't ever get me wrong, but sometimes it's just right, and you pull the trigger, you pay the money, you pull the trigger, and it works out. And he would have been one heck of a buck in about 3 more years.
Sure, that comes down to the moment of the opportunity to harvest the whitetail. I've killed 165-inch bucks, but I've killed 140s where that moment when he came was actually a better hunt than when I killed the 165. So I know exactly what you're saying. A buck could be coming in the rut on a cool morning with steam coming out, seeing his breath coming out of his mouth and nose, and chasing a doe. And hey, a 140 looks pretty good if he's putting a show on in front of you. And that creates memories that'll last a lifetime if you put them on the ground.
Yeah, well said. And I love those stories, because to me, that's the hunt. What about another story where, like you just said, the buck was coming in, it's frosty morning. You got any of those other ones to share?
Yeah, a lot of stories of guys that come hunt with me, that had, say, maybe in life had a hard year, where last year I had a fella come down and his best friend passed away that year. So he had kind of a rough year going, and we were hunting a buck called Stickers. It had back scratchers coming off his main beam on the left side. And I put him in there where we were seeing Stickers 3 or 4 days a week. And sure enough, Stickers come all the way across this field that we had him sitting on in the blind. He watched him for 100 yards coming all the way right at him, and he turned sideways. He left the arrow fly, and he hit him, and the buck ran about 40 or 50 yards, and he actually rolled when he hit the ground, and dust went flying everywhere, he said. And then when the dust all cleared out of the air, there was this huge buck laying there. And it was a great thing for me and him as an outfitter and him as the hunter to get a nice buck, but just to make his year, something great happen for him that year. And those are the kind of things, in a hunt, like we said, about the frosty morning and seeing the buck come in the rut. And that's what hunting is. What memory did it create for you when you harvested the animal that's going to last you a lifetime? For me, that's what it is.
Yeah, and well said, because we've all been there, and it's the moment, and it captures it. I can think of sitting in Buffalo County early in the morning, the sun's coming up, and the owls are hooting, and it's just like, oh my goodness, because you're right in the moment, you're right in the outdoors, and for millions of us, that's where we want to be. And so, I look at people like you, Joe, as you help us create those memories, and they're priceless. And yeah, the harvest is important, and grips and grins are wonderful. But when you're driving home, flying home, all of a sudden you're thinking back to that magic moment, or seeing the steam coming out of the nostrils of a rutting buck. I mean,
exactly.
They say where
that's what gives me the most satisfaction as being an outfitter, is to make a dream come true for a client. I mean, that's my number one thing that makes me happy. If a guy's coming to hunt with me, I've killed big bucks. I want to make him have that moment that's going to last him a lifetime. I guess you could, like winning a World Series or a Super Bowl, a guy has a couple Super Bowl rings. Hey, let's let this guy win one. You know what I mean? And it's just a great feeling to see that dream come true when it actually happens, and you're together with the buck taking pictures, and you just see the happiness in the hunter's face, and he's thanking you and shaking your hand. It's just the greatest thing.
Yeah, it is fun. Let's switch it up a little bit, and now we got a season hunter. Yeah, like you said, he's got a couple of really nice 150 or plus on the walls, mature bucks, and he says, Joe, I want to hunt, a mature buck, and if I go home empty, hey, I'm good with that. What do you do with that type of client?
I get along really well with that type of client because our minds are the same, our mindset. I've been on big bucks. He already knows everything about the wind and stuff like that too. So everything that we do to prepare to kill a mature whitetail is easier with a client that's experienced like that. Because when we go into an area and I tell him the buck's coming here, this and that, in his brain, he'll look at that same area and say, yeah, Joe, I see what you're saying. I see exactly what's going on here. I agree with you. Let's put a stand up right here, or let's move 60 yards down there and see if we can't catching some of them white oaks, or going down to the creek to get a drink. It's just great to hunt with someone with experience like that, because I think the same as him. I'm just putting him in an area where the big buck is, that his brain as a hunter with his experience is pretty much on the same wavelength as mine as we go to hunt an area. So it's easier for me as an outfitter to hunt with a guy like that. And I still get the same satisfaction as an inexperienced hunter, because when that buck hits the ground, that guy's never killed a buck that big before. So the kid comes out in him, the happiness and the whole shebang. And it's just a great thing when it all comes together, even with an experienced hunter.
As one person said, it's a beautiful thing when it all comes together.
That's exactly right, buddy.
And it's hard, folks. I mean, all you listening have been there either on your own ground or had the opportunity to hunt other states, multiple states, and hunted with outfitters to get you there. To put you on the right place at the right time. And let's talk about the wind. So, what time in the morning do you guys get up and decide who's going where and what stands you're going to use?
Well, if it gets light around 7 o'clock, all my properties are within 20 minutes of Athens. We pretty much know the night before. Say I have 5 or 6 hunters hunting with me that week. I'm checking the wind and stuff on my phone all the time on AccuWeather. And I'm texting the guys if I'm not, if they're in a motel room or if they're staying with me in a cabin. Obviously, we're just talking about it, but I always keep them informed of what's going on. And if I feel like the wind shifts, I'll move them to a completely different property because every one of my properties got shooter bucks on them. I got 13 different properties. It's nothing for me to have 2 to 4 shooter bucks on 13 different properties. So you do the math. There's 30 shooters for guys to hunt. And that's pretty good in a season instead of having one continuous 800-acre piece and us having 5 bucks to hunt all year. So having multiple properties, multiple stand sets, multiple blind sets helps us all, me as an outfitter and the clients that come hunt with me to get them in the right spot to maybe harvest one of these trophy bucks.
And it's exciting for you to kind of game plan with the people because you set the anticipation when you do it very well with your trail cameras. Then you'd say, we're going to sit the saddle stand or the crooked oak stand or the spring stand, however you name your stand. And, the people get in tune with what you're trying to do. And then you say, okay, here's kind of the inventory. Here's the hit list. If you see these 3 deer at this stand, just drill them. Don't even think about it. And you got the
right
their rack frame and everything. Is that kind of how you do it? Whitetail Rendezvous is pleased to announce a partnership with GoHunt.com. Who's GoHunt.com? Well, if you're a DIY hunter, you need the information at GoHunt.com/insider. Why? Because it provides 4,200 profiles, every unit, every species, and every season. Furthermore, they give in-depth analysis, interactive maps, unit access, and seasonal trends. Draw odds are very important, and they give you the most accurate information in the business. All this is available when you go to GoHunt.com/insider. Make sure you use promo code WR when you join Insider. You'll get a $50 gift card for GoHunt.com Gear Shop. All in all, if you're hunting out west in 2018, GoHunt.com Insider is where you need to be to get all the research information. When you use promo code WR, Whitetail Rendezvous receives a small commission from GoHunt.com.
They know what bucks are in the area because every week on Facebook from July on, when the bucks are fully developed in velvet, every week, and you've followed me enough now, every 7 days I have updated pictures on that Facebook page. So guys that are booking hunts with me a year ahead of time already know what's on my properties. Yes, we get roamers is what we call them when we get a buck that we have no picture of or no pattern of or never seen. Out of 4 bucks that we kill, we usually get 1 roamer. And that's another beautiful thing about hunting the area that we're in is every ridge has 3 to 4 bucks between 125 and 160 on them. So if a buck gets out of his area, we could kill something that we've never seen. And it happens. Like 1 out of 4 is pretty good chances of you getting a buck that we don't know about. And then plus all the bucks that we do know about are in the area. So gives the hunters a lot of confidence that hunt with us, that we're able to produce these pictures. We're able to thank God in heaven that we can even get daylight pictures of a lot of bucks. If you look at my pictures, 50% of them are daylight. I don't know where else you can go hunting in the country where an outfitter can show you 50% daytime pictures.
Let's sit right here and talk about that because we all know, and we've seen bucks all summer on the trail cameras, and then all of a sudden September comes and they're gone. They change their feeding habits, or they're just gone, and you don't see them until the wintertime. They're still there, but they just become invisible, if you say. But now I hear you saying, and I've seen it, folks. He's got daylight pictures of shooter bucks. Why do you think that is?
I think it has to do, Bruce, with a lot of the private land. The biggest thing is unpressured. So it gets back to where I got the multiple properties. Say we have 6 guys come in for 5 or 6 days. We may only hunt 4 of them properties. Well, then we let those 4 properties that we hunted that first week rest for 2 weeks before we go back to them. So the key thing is the pressure. You can make a buck nocturnal so fast by pounding the woods, putting human scent in there, making him wise. He's going to do what he has to do to survive. What's he going to do? Turn into a vampire, because you cannot hunt at night. So the biggest thing, as far as you asking me what creates that, I think it's pressure. And the key to not having it happen is rotating your properties, not putting a lot of pressure on the deer, and having neighbors that do the same thing, which gets back to quality deer management. Like I said before, doing your investigation, talking to your neighbors, letting your neighbors know what your plan is over the next 5-10 years of harvesting whitetails on the ground that you have against theirs, and then having them share what their plan is, and then everybody works together and everybody has a good time, and big bucks are hitting the ground.
Yeah, good times, and you manage it very well. Let's talk about a little about your management techniques. We've talked about your hit list, and you have 3 or 4 bucks on every property that are shooters. That doesn't happen by chance. How do you manage that?
The biggest thing goes back to getting ground in an area against big timber, thousands of acres. I could have a 20-acre piece. If it's connected to 2,000 acres of hardwood and you're in an unpressured area where it's all private land, you can turn that 20 acres into a piece that's like 1,000 acres, because you're bringing the bucks to you. And it goes back to where we feed 7 months ahead of time and getting them deer in a routine to stay on the grounds that we're hunting. And then it goes into management as we hunt, not to put too much pressure on them to turn them nocturnal. And obviously when the rut comes in, all bets are off. They just run crazy. So you don't have to worry so much about it in November. But October and December and January, you really got to watch. They get touchy, and you just got to watch how much pressure you put on a property.
And how much is enough?
I can tell by the pictures. If I got a buck, say the name Neptune, that's one of my favorite bucks down there. Daytime, October 5th through 10th, 2 days that week. All of a sudden, the 11th through the 14th, night, got to back off. Don't hunt it for 2 or 3 weeks. So it's up to me as an outfitter to keep checking these cameras, seeing what mood my bucks are in, basically knowing what they're doing at all times, to know not to put the pressure on them, or, put less pressure on that area for 2 or 3 weeks. Then when I start getting a couple daytime pictures again, when he feels comfortable, go right back in and try to harvest them with some hunters.
So you are more or less tethered to your game cameras. They're your eyes in the woods. Now, because of that, how do you check them without busting that bucks out of there?
Well, that goes back to the 7 months, Bruce. Whenever I go in there to feed them, they're used to me on the machine. So when I go in, I let my ATV running when I'm dumping corn. And, I dump the corn and I use rubber gloves and I check my cameras and everything. But it gets back to them being used to me coming in for 7 months in a row and multiple years now, because this is my 4th season, my 5th coming up, of hunting the same properties. They're not afraid of Joe coming in on the ATV. They're used to that. And actually, they know I'm bringing feed in. So, not so much me coming in as opposed to you putting a guy in a stand and him walking in and then them getting wind of him, smelling the human scent. It can turn them nocturnal fast once they start catching on to a guy hunting them.
So basically, you're Farmer Joe, and this is the routine, and they hear, the ATV or whatever you're using the gator, whatever you're using to get in there, and they hear that, and they know when they hear that, then there's going to be a fresh pile of corn. Do you bait with corn, or do you feed them corn?
Yes, shelled corn is what we use. Yep, it works great.
And so they're used to it, just like the farmer where I hunt. He can come out, and there's deer in the field, and he's spreading manure, or he's plowing some ground, or cutting hay. It doesn't matter. And they just kind of stand there and look at him and go, oh, yeah, there's Eddie in the traffic, in the tractor, and doing his thing, and they really don't care. You can see them flick their tails, and their posture's not alert. It's just, oh, okay, we've seen him 1,000 times. Yeah, and this is what he's doing. Okay, and they don't care. But let Eddie, just walk out in the same field, same guy, no tractor. All of a sudden, boom, they're gone. Absolutely gone.
Right. Or, the will to survive is always going to kick in any animal, Bruce. So say that buck is being hunted a week before that, and a guy maybe had an encounter with him and missed him or something. It might be 2-3 weeks before he's comfortable enough to come in daytime to that corn pile. He'll sit out there 1,000 yards away and listen to me dump the corn and stuff, but the will to survive will still kick in, and he will wait till it's dark to come in. So, it still gets back to, is that deer unpressured and comfortable enough to move at daytime? And all bets are off in the rut. All bets are off in the gun season, because you could have guys walking around and bounce a buck and make a move in the daytime. But like I said, typical September, October, December, January, if that buck is too pressured, he's not going to move in the daytime hours.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Here we are rolling along and talking about managing, your properties effectively. And you got something going on, because I know some friends that head down there and shot some, wonderful deer and had some great experiences, because you have some good places to stay. And then what's the roadhouse right across the street from some of your cabins?
Yeah, we have several options for clients. They can stay at the Knights Inn on State Street in Athens, Ohio, and it's only $60 a night, and there's 2 beds in a room. So two guys usually come together to hunt anyway. $30 a piece, and after they're done hunting, they can walk across the street to Texas Roadhouse and Shade Sports Bars there too to watch football, and they have great chicken wings and prime rib and everything. And all the properties are within 20 minutes of Athens, so that works out well. And then if you want the cabin atmosphere, we have cabins also, Lake Hill Cabins. Shelly Rex runs those. They have kitchens, full kitchens in them, and hot tub. They sleep 4, so $150 a night divided by 4 guys. You're looking at very affordable hunt. And Ohio out-of-state license is only $150, so that's pretty cheap as opposed to other out-of-state license.
Yeah, it is. I know Kansas, all in, it's pretty much over. It's over $500. In Kansas, Wisconsin's 125, something like that. And
okay.
And that's another thing, folks. When you think about your hunt, there's a lot of aspects to it. One, you got to book your hunt, reservation, deposits, all that. That's done now, or should have been now, or even earlier. But then you got to get there. then you got to stay there. And some outfitters do it like Joe does, and he has options for you. And you're going to roll your own meals. So if you like to cook, bring a cooler and cook or whatever you need to do. But count the cost. And I tell people all the time, come to Colorado. The most inexpensive part of the whole hunt is actually booking the hunt, because. And I'm throwing in all the gear, because if you don't have the right gear for Colorado, you got to get new gear, and it just goes on and on and on. So hunting is expensive. So, plan ahead, plan a year ahead. Say, hey, I want to hunt Ohio. It's going to cost me X, Y, and Z, and then travel time and time off of work. And so figure it out and make plans. And that's the biggest thing I see where people get into situations. They didn't plan for that to happen, and stuff happens. As soon as you leave your house,
a couple other nice things about hunting Ohio, Bruce, is we have Sunday hunting is allowed in Ohio, and our season is long. It starts in September 24th and ends around February 5th. So you have a lot of time there to figure out a hunt in your schedule, and you can start a hunt on a Thursday and end it on a Tuesday and only use 3 vacation days, because Saturday, Sunday, you're off anyway, and you can hunt Sundays. So that's what makes it nice for hunting Ohio, having the long season, having Sundays, cheap out-of-state license. And with me, you can have the cabin atmosphere, or you can have staying in the motel, be in town by the restaurants. But no matter which option you choose, we're going to have you within 20 minutes of hunting a big deer.
Yeah, that's exciting thing. Hey, Joe, how do people get a hold of you? Where's your website, Facebook site? What's your email address?
If you Google Pacconi's Trophy Whitetails of Southern Ohio, you'll see my website. It's Pacconi's Trophy Whitetails of Southern Ohio under Hunting Top 10 Outfitters. And my Facebook page is Joseph Pacconi, Washington, PA. And people can go on there, and that's the page that I post the trail cam pictures every week from July clean to February. Every 7 days, new pictures. I check the cameras and update them, and that's really become a popular thing. If I miss 1 week, believe me, my phone's burning up. Hey, did you get down there and check the cameras? And it's really turned into a fun thing for everybody, because there's hundreds of people involved, viewing these trail camera pictures on my Facebook page, and they actually look forward to it every Sunday. Oh, I wonder what Joe's going to have on the cameras. And I like it too. I like being able to do that. And I get as much excitement getting a big picture. A picture of a big buck, as opposed to killing them anymore.
Let's visit the difference between hunting mature bucks, 4.5 years and older, on private land versus public land. What's the big difference, and why the advantage really rolls with the private landholder?
Well, when you go hunt public land, Bruce, you don't know who else knows about that big buck, number one. You may drive clean to Ohio from Michigan to hunt public land because you know of a certain big buck on it, but all of a sudden you're up in a tree and here comes 3 flashlights through the woods, and you just drove all the way to Ohio or flew to Ohio for this hunt, and some guy from New Jersey knows about the buck, and he blows your whole day up because he walks into the same spot. So there it comes again to pressure. When you're hunting a private land, it's regulated. I'm managing it. I'm controlling who hunts on it, how much they hunt a big deer. And I can always get you on unpressured deer on private land, because that's my job. To get enough multiple properties, to keep things unpressured, to rotate guys, and to make sure everybody has a great chance of harvesting an animal. And I would say, numbers-wise, 30 to 40% better chance of killing a big buck on private land as opposed to public. That's my opinion as an outfitter.
Yeah, and I'd have, I would agree, because you can control it. Sometimes, if you have a lot of people hunting your farm it gets a little squirrely. There's no question about it. But people, figure it out and sort it out. Um, and everybody can't, hunt private land. They can't hire an outfitter or they can't lease land. And a lot of great bucks are killed every year on public land. But the one guy that I know DIY hunts all the time, multiple states, he gets as far away he can get from roads and parking lots. I mean, he'll go where people won't go, and that's why he kills the big
Right.
bucks. That's why he
Right.
kills the
So
big
there
bucks.
again, it comes back to the pressure. He's getting back in far enough to where other hunters aren't willing to go, and he's maybe catching the deer that are less pressured than closer to the roads.
Let's talk about your neighbors. You said you're fortunate to have neighbors. Everybody's got QDMA on the brain, or let go and let grow. What happens if there's a new neighbor and he's not so nice?
To tell you the truth, Bruce, I never really ran into that yet. I could see where that could be a problem for sure, but I don't think we'll really run into it as a norm in that area, because the only reason someone's going to hunt Athens and Meigs County is because they want to kill a big buck. So, you're very seldom ever going to have guys going to hunt even like Buffalo County, Wisconsin, to shoot a 4-point. So, I mean, it could happen, but I don't think it's ever going to be the norm or frequently to where it's something that I have to worry about all the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I'm fortunate to hunt Buffalo County every year. And, people are taking good deer, the bigger deer, the mature deer, the wall hangers, the 180s. I don't care where you hunt, from Canada to Pike County or Kentucky, Ohio, wherever. They're hard to come by. I mean, there's no question about it. Do they exist? Yes. Are they there? Yes, they are. But you got to do a lot of right things to put them on the ground. Having said that, everybody knows the hot places in the country, and that's what sets the expectations, and that's what makes places like yours, Joe, so inviting, because you know that you're going to have an opportunity to see one of the biggest deer, or not the one biggest deer in your whole life, just by sitting in that tree stand.
There's only so many pockets in the United States that even produce these deer. And we're fortunate to be in one of them in southern Ohio. But the reason I mention these pockets is, do other states produce big deer? Yes. Tennessee just killed the biggest buck ever shot, in the last 20 years. What did he get it with? A bow down there last year, 250 inches or something like that?
Well, I know a kid in southwest Iowa, and I just saw the replica of the deer. It's 283. He's got bones coming all over his head, and
now the point I'm trying to make with this is, yes, he got that deer, and he got it in Tennessee, but Ohio, Illinois, Kansas, Wisconsin, Texas, 125 to 160s on every hill, 3 to 4 of them. Can it be done in other states? Sure, it can be done. But I'll take my chances sitting in a tree in these certain pockets in the United States that the history books have proven. Look at Pope and Young records. Look at Boone and Crockett entries. Look at Ohio Big Bucks Club entries. Look at the counties that these deer are killed in. You want to be hunting these counties. You don't want to spend time somewhere where you may get one buck out of every 20 years you hunt. And that's what I'm saying. You need to hunt the pockets in the United States that produce these big deer to make yourself more successful over the long run, killing multiple big bucks, than hunting somewhere like Pennsylvania, where I'm originally from. I killed one record book deer in Pennsylvania, 141 Pope and Young, and I hung off the side of a tree for 30 years to kill that deer. So can it be done? Yeah, but you're better off to be in these counties and pockets in the United States where you have a better chance of killing these deer. In Athens and Meigs counties, every hill's got bucks on it between 125 and 160. So I'd take my chances in those areas.
And that's well said. And all you have to do is Google top Pope and Young counties. Forget the states; it's counties, or Boone and Crockett. Just Google that, and you're going to come up with lists and all the magazines. The Outdoor Lives of the world. They'll have. You want a big buck, go here, and everybody can't get there. I get it, but if you do a lot of things that Joe has shared with us today, one, you can hold deer on your land. Obviously, if you're gonna bait, feed, however you want to call it, make sure you know the regulations where you live, and get on it. And the secret for Joe is the trail cameras, because he's got an inventory, and it's just like going into your favorite restaurant, saying, what's on the menu today, and you might think that's kind of funny, but every single place I've ever hunted, they will do just what Joe has done. They'll say, okay, this is what we're seeing on side bet. We're seeing this on broken limb. We're seeing this over here at Bob's Hollow. We're seeing this. And so if you hunt a place long enough, you kind of start to learn it, and you go, I really like side bet. That's where I want to hunt, because if I hunt that with the right wind, I know that buck's going to come right down that fence row, and I'm going to have a good chance at him. But folks, that takes time, and that takes investment on your part to put you in yourself to that place. So with saying that, Joe, why don't you give some shout outs, and we're going to wrap the show.
Okay. Like I said, all you have to do is Google Pacconi's Trophy Whitetails of Southern Ohio, and you'll see all my links for Facebook and my website, which is Pacconi's Trophy Whitetails of Southern Ohio under Hunting Top 10 Outfitters. And my Facebook page is Joseph Pacconi, Washington, PA. And I also have a Facebook page, Pacconi's Trophy Whitetails of Southern Ohio. And feel free to check them out and follow our trail cam pictures from July on, and give me a call. My phone number's on those sites if you'd like to book a hunt, or text me, and I'll give you all the information you need to get you down here in Southern Ohio.
Mr. Pacconi of Pacconi's Trophy Whitetails of Southern Ohio, it's always a joy to talk with you, and I love your passion, because I know some of your guests, and everybody that I talk to, they just love hanging out with you, and you make your guest friends. Yeah, I know it's a business opportunity for you, but the people that come down there, they enjoy every aspect of your operation. So well done. And on behalf of thousands of listeners across North America, Whitetail Rendezvous says thank you for being a guest on the show.
Thank you, Bruce. It's always a pleasure, and I just appreciate you giving me the time to come on and talk to you. Thank you.
Hey, folks, we got a new sponsor. It's called Buckwild Coffee. What's so special about Buckwild Coffee? Well, a gazillion people go to Starbucks every day and drink coffee. Well, why shouldn't Buckwild Coffee offer you light, medium, or dark roast with free shipping? All you have to do is go to whitetailrendezvous.com, go to shop, and order your coffee, and I'll ship it out for free. Hey, thanks so much for visiting Buckwild Coffee. The best brew in the West, the best brew around the campfire, the best brew in the hunting shack, the best brew anywhere. Buckwild Coffee. Get yours today.
Yes, sir.
Special guest is coming on the next episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. What's so special about Tony Bynum? Well, he's one of the world's best photographers in the world. He's done work for name a magazine or a TV channel, National Geographic, and others. Tony lives in East Glacier, but he travels around the world capturing memories for you and I. So when you see it, we think we're right there standing beside Tony. It's a pleasure to have him on the show.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.